Welcome to Season 2, Episode 11 of Tech Talk Thursday. My guest today is Matt Kelly, Chief Technologist for IPC, and he's here to tell us about an exciting new initiative called Factory of the Future, a multifaceted approach to bring together OEMs, EMS companies, and other stakeholders to help shape, educate, and implement the technologies for tomorrow's smart factories. That's the topic. Now let's meet our guest, Matt Kelly. So, welcome, Matt. Nice to see you again. I think the last time we saw each other was Apex, which was, my goodness, back in the normal days, about 10 months ago. You've been Chief Technologist now at IPC for, as I say, 10 months. When we talked at Apex, you discussed your intention to help drive the technology in your new leadership role. What are some of the key highlights that you've learned so far, and how are you progressing?
Thanks, Trevor. Nice to see you too. Seems like an eon ago since it was Apex. We're really excited, and thanks for having us on today. We are really excited to announce IPC's Factory of the Future initiative. Since I've been in this role as Chief Technologist, we've been working full-time on looking for ways to advance the industry to help modernize and to help promote and accelerate this modernization. So you'll be seeing this for the very first time, with this webcast, as well as some news releases that we have coming out later this week. The IPC Factory of the Future is really a way for us at an industry level to begin to harness the full potential of Factory of the Future. It helps us build electronics better, but most importantly, it focuses on delivering real business value to members by solving real business problems. And I think that's really the focus of the whole mandate. We're not looking to create another set of buzzwords and talk about technology for technology's sake, but what we're looking to do is through a leadership role, we're going to be pulling in all of that information, making sense of it, and really staying implementation focused.
Okay, so
really excited to announce that today.
So explain how that's going to work. Is that going to be sort of a mentoring scheme, or how are you going to bring the smaller companies, the tier 3s and the tier 4s, into this Factory of the Future space?
Sure, great question. So, as always with something big like this, there are simpler things like awareness, collaboration that we'll be fostering, and IPC is well versed in that. But to get to your point of actually getting to the implementation in smaller organizations, we've got a full strategy organized, laid out. It's approved by IPC executive management and board of directors as well, where we're putting many things in place into the strategy. So things like the creation of our Chief Technologist Council, getting the voice of some of those companies, what a big company needs, what a small company needs, trying to sort through that. Building on digital standards portfolio growth, building upon our conventional technologies that we know well today. And other things like strengthened industry work groups. These work groups are out there today, but IPC, we've signed many MOUs throughout this year to increase our reach and our interaction with these groups. Groups like MTC out of the UK, AIAG, PSNA, HDP, and INEMI, for example. So we're really trying to stay on top of the latest technologies, making sure that we're working on the right things.
Right, and these organizations are going to be working as an extension of the IPC Smart Factory mandate. Is that the idea?
Absolutely. This applies not just to smart factory, it applies to all technology, really. I mean, one thing that I've seen, especially the last 5 to 10 years, is that a lot of work groups produce very good information, but then often it doesn't go anywhere. So it sits as a white paper or sits as some kind of topical, adder to the technical community. But at the end of the day, it needs to live and breathe somewhere so it ends up in product. So that's, standards, specifications, the rules. So if it really needs to end up in product, and that's really how we're connecting with these groups.
Right, right. Now you mentioned there the council, that you've set up. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what it comprises and who's involved in it?
Yeah, sure. So it is built to be cross-functional and multidisciplinary. You can think of a product life cycle, how it's made from concept design all the way through to volume manufacturing. So we have subject matter expertise and representatives spanning that whole chain. Also, we know products are built with a supply chain in place. So we have to deal with OEMs, EMS, PCB component material providers. So all of that is being put together here within the council. We have representation right now from Siemens, from Google, HP, Collins Aerospace, several EMS and PCB component suppliers as well.
Right. Okay. Now, on the factory of the future, I mean, there's quite a lot of different technologies coming into that area at the one time, and I think Flex, for example, in their approach to it, put it into 6 different pillars. One was on digital twin, one would be on robotics, one would be on augmented reality, etc. Are you covering all of these different aspects? And are you taking an individual approach to each of these different areas?
Yeah, so certainly we're including, some of the pillars that you just mentioned, and we're organizing it slightly differently. From our research, there's about 25 different technology sectors that will be included in our Factory of the Future initiative. That does sound unwieldy. I understand. We're categorizing these into groups, into families. The main point, though, is that having those identified as important areas within the supply chain is really our focus. So taking the technology, but then applying it to the right spot in the value chain is really what we're focusing on. If we don't do that, then we're just promoting, this very large body of technology. So the key for us with this initiative is to apply the right tool to the right problem.
The right problem. Okay, well, that's going to be quite a task, I'd imagine. But and a lot of that's going to be, I guess, through education and using these extended groups that you talked about earlier.
Big data, artificial intelligence, and smart factory solutions are here now. Automated optical inspection is critical in a smart factory environment. Leading the way to Industry 4.0, Mertech invites you to the smart factory of the future.
With the current situation of COVID-19 pandemic, do you think that the progress of smart factory implementation and integration has actually slowed because of COVID, or do you think it's found a new emphasis?
My answer is actually a yes and no answer. Yes, in the sense that it's just difficult to get around. I think it can apply to your family life, getting to and from places. So I think that there is part of that. There's backlogs. So from those types of things, I think it's more of a logistical slowdown. Mm-hmm. But on the strategy and the demand side, no, we're actually seeing the opposite. The adoption need and demand is increasing. We continually see more requests for our connected factory exchange protocol, and these I think that the positioning of our Factory of the Future launch here is very timely as well.
Good. So that was my last question, which is, of course, the current status of CFX. I mean, it's been pretty widely adopted by many companies in the industry. Are you seeing quite a lot of rollout of CFX, and where are you going with it next? Where are you developing it?
Yeah, certainly. We've hit a milestone Trevor, on this. If you think about, if you can believe the very first meetings were actually held in 2016. So we're somewhere in the 5-year mark from the very first discussions. This whole period in time has really been about paper, if I may say it that way. Really important discussions, the flows of how things we want to have done, the agreements, the concessions that have been happening across the industry. Within this last year, we're now seeing a significant migration from paper to the shop floor, and that's called implementation. So we are definitely getting a lot more CFX beta sites, as we call them, happening. We're working with more and more partners, EMS, OEM suppliers, to have this happen, as well as some institutions as well. So yeah, we are definitely seeing a rise in the need for CFX.
Right, right. Okay, so so that's giving us really good connectivity on the line and upwards to the MES systems. What about looping back to get some closed loop information going back to design? Because the holy grail, really, at the end of the day, has got to be DFM, true design for manufacturing.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's something that's not embedded right now in the CFX protocol, where you can actually take right from design all the way through. But just the way that CAD works and how it's actually loaded onto the system, we're very close to that. So this is an area for us where we will be focusing. And again, back to the CTC Council, this is why we have the work group looking right from the beginning of design, right up through manufacturing and final system assembly. So the backbone, as you're suggesting, will be CFX.
Right.
Now, one thing we have changed is the architecture options. We really allow multiple different architectures. So whether you have a kind of a state-of-the-art MES, or you're using more of a kind of an older patchwork system, we're really enabling legacy equipment as well as new equipment native to participate in this protocol. So we have done that, and we'll be working a little bit more on the design front end as well.
Right. Yeah, that's important, that you can include the legacy equipment that are in people's factories. They're not going to completely change their equipment. What another area that's interesting as well is the box build area. I mean, that's starting to automate a lot more with some roboticism coming in, automatic inspection of devices and products that to check the dimensional information and that sort of thing. Is that something that you think will eventually get encompassed into CFX as well?
Yes, absolutely. And there's some really interesting companies that are springing up and getting a fair amount of financial backing relatively quickly as well. So yeah, I would agree with you, Trevor. Mechanical backend is an area that's on our list as well. It's something that I intend to plug into IPC's core mission. We spent a lot of time kind of at the front end of line, decades worth, and there's a lot of opportunity in the back end. The most exciting area that I see is AI based visual inspection. And, for the example that you gave, there's a lot of value, a lot of scrap reduction, a lot of improvements that can be made in the back end, because frankly, it's quite it's quite manual, even by today's standards. So yeah, I agree with you. Lots of opportunity there.
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, it's an exciting time, certainly from a technological point of view. Final question here. And I think pre-COVID, one of the issues that was sort of affecting the industry was really the sheer introduction rate of new products. New products were coming into the market faster and faster. The ramp rate was getting faster, and the lead time shorter. And it was really starting to, it was quite a problem. And in some ways, COVID has sort of helped to slow that down a little bit. Do you see post-COVID that we're going to be ramping up again into this explosion of new technologies?
Yeah, and I think that we talk a lot about new technologies and the factory of the future, as I've mentioned. But when you look at it from a product point of view, it is all about the MPI cycle time. and you can't go any faster than, what you're able to design and debug and, ramp to volume. So you have to be very nimble with product to product introduction cycles. A lot of what people think about is kind of that single product cycle, right? I need to build it, I need to design it, and I need to get it out the door. But if you think about it in terms of multiple cycles, then you can reuse tooling, you can help with back-end repurposing. The concept of automating automation, if you think about it that way.
Right.
That's really kind of, the next step to get faster and to try and keep up with that faster and faster cycle time.
The pace of change. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's incredible the speed that it's going at. The UK just announced here yesterday that they're phasing out all combustion cars by 2030. Literally. So it's incredible how fast this is all coming together. One of the things that you also must be keeping an eye on is other legislation and information coming from overseas. And I'm talking about here, for example, the new upcoming SCIP database, SCIP database coming out of Europe, which was announced by the European Chemicals Agency. How do you think that's going to affect IPC members globally?
Yeah, it's a very timely question, Trevor. It impacts them right now, today. In fact, the SCIP database was launched just a few weeks ago here, the later part of October 2020. That was known to be coming, and they have launched that with compliance obligations coming in January. I believe it's January 5th, 2021. So coming very fast. What we've learned is that although the database is there, companies are to be reporting substances of concern. The problem is that there's quite low adoption right now, and that is mainly because of awareness. So that's something that we can definitely help with at IPC.
Right. So you're going to basically raise awareness of it, and it's going to affect all these companies that are already involved in REACH and that sort of thing, that are selling products into Europe anyway, for sure. Anyway, Matt, nice to talk to you again. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you in real time, maybe at Apex next year. But until then, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Trevor. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's it for this week's edition of Tech Talk Thursday. Next week, it's a Thanksgiving holiday in the United States, and there will not be a panel discussion or a Tech Talk Thursday. We'll be back the following week, December 1st, with a panel on underfills and encapsulants. And on the Thursday, of course, another Tech Talk report. Until then, I want to wish all our American colleagues a very happy Turkey Day. And for the rest of us, stay safe and have a wonderful weekend.
Global SMT and Packaging opens the windows of the world to bring you the latest news and technologies from Munich, from Bangalore, from Shanghai, from San Diego.